work, engineers, people like that, or are developed by companies that are wanting to open up a new market and wanting to find out by working in some kind of a consortium like the Open Geospatial Consortium, wanting to work together to come up with common solutions that will then open up new market opportunities. And they do a great job because they're very much focused on engineers, people with particular technical expertise who have to make something or design something. They're very good because what they're focused on is enabling professionals to do a great job in developing products and services. And similarly for companies, that really anchors it again in the real world, because this is not just some people in an ivory tower somewhere, isolated from the world, coming up with clever solutions to problems nobody has. This is about companies that are already working hard within a particular market, developing products and services that address the needs of their customers. It's about those companies identifying what do we need to be standardized that will help us to move things forward. So they're really very much focused on practical outcomes. And so these are, if you like, and this is a very crude division, but effectively, these are the two perspectives there. One, which is the professional and company standards bodies that really are looking for solutions that work in the real world. And then the other is from for standards bodies like ISO, IEC, and of course ITU as well, where they need things that work in the real world, but they also want to make sure that they address important things that the citizen needs. So they look at things like, this is a great product, but is it safe? How can we ensure that not only the people who build it or who implement it wherever they are, that they are safe in doing so, but actually that the citizen is protected. They also think about public policy issues. So, for instance, and we'll be talking about AI, I'm sure, in the future. So, companies and professionals are excited to build the kind of applications for AI that will solve real problems, and that's great. But ISO and IEC and ITU can kind of step back and think about what's the implication of these solutions, what are potential dangers if we don't think long and hard about the impact these new solutions are going to have, and how can we mitigate any problem to make sure that when this is implemented, it won't only work to deliver what's narrowly been defined as the goal of the engineer or the company, but will also contribute to public good and to the benefit of humankind. So there are these two kinds of drivers, both of which are looking to see things that work well, but which come at it from a different perspective. And what is very helpful is that many of the professional and kind of company-based consortia of standards bodies like Open Geospatial Consortium have developed strong links with ISO, IEC, ITU, so that what they can do is to take solutions that they've developed and know work really well, take them to ISO, IEC, ITU, and say, here's what we found works. Could you look at it from that wider perspective and make it richer and make it look at it from the kind of perspectives that would make it much better for the world, and enhance it and then make it one of your own standards. So that's very often the kind of standards that are built by ISO, IEC, and ITU are not built in isolation. They're built by taking the standards that have been developed by expert professionals, by companies, and reviewing them and looking at them from many different perspectives, and then saying, here it is, it's now an ISO standard, an IEC standard, or an ITU recommendation.
Yeah, I think it's also very important the participation of all companies in the national committees, and this participation being reflected to the international level.
It
in the
is.
IEC, ITU, and ISO.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. There are many other levels of this. The value, I mean, the value of international standards like that with ISO, IEC, and ITU is that you're bringing together professionals, but within a context where effectively national governments or national standards bodies are looking at it, checking that it makes sense, and checking it not just in some vague sense, but this is the UK, this is Mexico, this is Germany, this is Japan. Does it work for us? And it makes sure that this is a very practical thing in many different contexts around the world.
Yeah. I have another question for you. What is the role of standards in supporting innovation?
Well, that's I mean, the interesting thing is that some people can feel that standards limit innovation because obviously what standards do is they set a whole range of requirements to say this has to meet this requirement, it has to do that, it has to be tested in this way. And so you can feel this is hindering innovation. But of course, that isn't right. Sometimes we get it wrong, but almost always what standards do is that they set the kind of level of confidence that then companies can build. Say these things are set. We know they're there because they've been agreed over a number of years, where many different companies, where different countries, different organizations have looked at it and said these things we all agree should be done in this kind of way. And once that certainty is in place, it then allows companies, it then allows individuals, experts to say, right, that's sorted. Now, how can we innovate on top of it? And what that does is it gives great confidence, because the challenge is always, if you're not quite sure about the base and you build on one approach and you develop all sorts of fantastic innovations built on that, and then for some reason or other that falls out of favor and people then choose to go another way, then a lot of your work of innovation is wasted. It no longer makes sense. And so it means that in many situations you've got that can really hold back investment and hold back the willingness of people to put time and effort into looking at innovations if they're not sure if they do that, will the foundation for what they're building continue to be the way things are done, or will that be a change to it? And of course, it is always a difficulty in standards work. You can call it the Goldilocks zone. It's like getting it. You don't want to standardize too much, because then that does hinder innovation. If you standardize things where there's still some uncertainty or some options, but on the other hand, you don't want to standardize too little, and you've got to get it right. But I think standards bodies are pretty good at that. And I think when we do get it right, it does mean that then there can be the investment and the willingness to push things forward because people know that they're building on a firm foundation.
Yeah, as I see it, the standards give us a very good platform to start thinking about new things coming from a solid base and start
Yes,
thinking, what else? What can I do to
exactly.
be better,
Exactly.
faster, or more efficient, or greener? Or it gives us a very solid base, a good base to
It does,
move
yes.
forward. I have another question. What is the value of a systems approach in standardization?
Well, the challenge in standardization is always that most things today are complicated. I mean, I think we've all got smartphones. I don't know if you can see this, but we all know our smartphone, and this is not a simple thing. It's not a phone. It's called a smartphone. It enables me to phone, but it also has a camera. It's a health monitor, so it can tell me all kinds of information about my heart rate. It can tell me how many steps I've gone it can tell me what my sleep's like. So many sensors are in there that are capturing information about the way I live my life. It's a map, It can tell me where I am. It can tell me how I can get from where I am at the moment to where I need to get to. It Even as a camera, it's not just a camera. I can point the camera to a QR code, and it will then understand the QR code, and it will come up with a link to a website. Or I can now, with different kind of apps, I can point it on a sign in a language I don't understand, and it will interpret that sign to me. And so what you've got in this very complex piece of equipment is many different kinds of technologies that all need to be really good. The best camera, the best screen, the best sound, so that when you're listening to music, it sounds rich and you can really get lost in the music. Or if you're watching a video, that the sound helps you to really enjoy the story and so on. So, every single one of these different things, if you want to have your steps counted, you need to know that it's reliable, that if you really have walked 10,000 steps a day, if it's looking at your heart rate, you need to know that it's accurate, you can rely on it. So all of these different sensors, all of these different pieces of engineering, they all need to work really, really well on their own. And to do that, you need absolute experts in camera design, screen design, sound engineering, and so on. But all of them need to work together, because most of the ways we use our smartphone are calling on different sorts of technologies within that smartphone to help us, to help make sure that we can gain all the kind of extra value we get by having them all in one single piece of equipment. And that's true increasingly of everything in life. So, obviously you and I, smart cities are one of the things that we're very much interested in. And within smart cities, there's a huge amount of ways in which the different areas of city life need to be linked together. You can't see the city as lots of siloed off domains, and there's energy, and there's water, and there's waste, and there's transport, and there's health, and there's education, and all of these housing, and construction. So all of these are different disciplines in the city. All of them are managed by specialists within that discipline who have their own particular professional demands, requirements to be able to do their work properly. All of them need standards to help, an architect design a building, an engineer design a bridge that will stand up, a transport planner, or a car designer, or a road designer, or a train designer build things that will work within that particular area, that particular domain. So all of those different domains need specialists who can design things that will work within their own particular area. But increasingly, all of them need to work together, and there needs to be a way that you can see how, when each of those things are being implemented within the city, how they can also be linked together to make sure that there's that there's synergies, and that there's really effective thing.